Hi there, my name's Nick. I'm the engineer at Tailfin, and today we're going to talk about our range of side bags. So let's get into it. We currently do two side bags. We do the SL22 and the UD22. And the SL stands for super light, and that's because it weighs 600 grams. And the UD stands for ultra durable, and it weighs 800 grams. And they're very similar in how they're made up. They are both 22 litres. They've got the same componentry on the back, the same chassis inside. So the main differences between the SL22 and the UD22 is the fabric. They're both high frequency welded, so that means the panels are not stitched or taped. They are put in a press and they are shot with high frequency radio that melts inner layers and become a single piece. So this shell is 100% waterproof, and they're both constructed using that technology. The SL22 is made from a lightweight nylon fabric, whereas the UD22 is made from a hypalon nylon fabric. So that hypalon gives a thick layer of a sort of rubberized material over the outside, and so it will stand up much more to abuse. So if your main goal is to shave grams to be as fast as possible, then we generally recommend the SL22. And if you care more about being able to throw your bike over on its side, or go through brambles, or just treating your bike with a bit less care, then we recommend the UD22. So it's the decision is yours whether to go to save grams or to have something a bit more durable. The other difference with the UD22, it has a side pocket on one side, which is good for stashing small items like credit cards or cash, really. So there's a few things that make our bags pretty unique. And I would say the main thing is how it feels when it's on your bike. And that is that they are extremely rigid, with no rattle, and we achieve that with the clamp that we have and the internal chassis. The componentry both outside and inside the bag is aluminium, and that means that there's very little flex. We've got a cam action lock here, so that as I move that lever over, the arms from underneath come up and grip the rack. And they don't just grip it lightly, they grip it tightly to stop any and all rattle. So this clamp is designed to work on both our racks, but also traditional metal racks. And so it comes with a set of spacers. It ships with the 16mm spacer already fitted, so that it will go straight onto our Tailfin rack. If you have a traditional metal rack, you can swap them out to fit either 8, 10 or 12mm diameter tubing. It's great. It works best as part of a system, but we appreciate that you may have other racks and you may want to use them on traditional metal racks. So you're not locked in to our system. So let me show you how that works. So this is our X series rack. This is the X1. So if I put this on its side here, so as I push the lever down here, you can see the arms come up to clamp. And so this is now rigidly held. So now you can imagine if whatever you have in here is now securely held in place by the chassis, which is in turn held by the clamp, which is then in turn held by the rack, which then connects rigidly to the bike. So you have a system that is extremely rigid. And rigidity is important because it's what you feel when you ride. So when you're on the bike and you're off the saddle and you're moving the bike around, you will feel everything that the bike is doing. If you have items in the bike that move around, you feel that, and it's quite an unsettling experience. And it's why we think these bags in conjunction with our rack make it the best rack and bag combination on the market. So just to show you a little bit more about the bags, this is them packed out to near the top of them. And they can take up to a 17-inch laptop if you're using it for commuting, or it's quite a voluminous 22 litres. And new for this year, we've updated our straps and side release clips, and they're now glove friendly. So when it's cold outside and your hands are numb, you can still access your gear quickly and easily. A nice feature of our side straps is that the end is tethered to itself, so there's no chance of it getting caught in your spokes or anywhere else. So when it comes to carrying this, you've got two options. You can either carry it like this, and we like to use the side strap as a handle with the hook on the outside. Alternatively, it ships with a strap that we designed, and this is again new for this year. To put this on, the main thing when rolling down the bag is to make sure the small triangular parts are on the outside, and they should be on the outside on both sides, and that gives you a place to attach the strap to. So you hook each end on, and the way I like to carry it is with the hook on the outside, and I put it over my shoulder like a record bag, like that. So people often ask what to do with the strap when you put it back on your bike. Do you take it off? It's quite a few extra operations. What I like to do is to pop the bag open like this, and I put the strap straight inside. So I leave it attached, and because the strap rotates on the ends, it means you can then roll it up. And the knack with rolling these down is often getting the air out, and so there is a learning curve doing that. And it's a slightly more bulky roll when you've got the strap still attached, but it's faster. And so that's the strap still connected and inside the bag. So to sum up, these are our two side bags at the moment, the SL22 and the UD22. And inside they've got an internal pocket and zip pocket. 22 litres, high frequency welded, 100% waterproof, and the stiffest bags on the market that offer unrivaled performance. So I'm now going to show you how the bag attaches to the rack, which should only take about 5 or 10 seconds once you've done it a few times. So this bag is set up to go on the left-hand side of the bike, and I can tell that because the lower hook points in the direction of travel of the bike. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that the cam lever is fully open. If it's not fully open, then you won't be able to get it on. Inside the cam, we've designed a ball spring, which means that you feel when it's all the way open and you feel when it's all the way closed. So once you've got this open, you take the bag, and the lower hook wants to point forward in the direction of travel. So in this case, it's going on the left-hand side of the bike. So you hook that from below, you come up, and it hooks up underneath the rack. Then the next thing you do is you align the upper clamp with the mounts on the rack. And before clamping down, just make sure that it's central. Once it's central and it looks in place, push the lever all the way forward until it clamps. And that's it. That's the bag now fully on. So to get the bag off, it's the same in reverse. So you lift the lever, you twist the bag until the lower hook is released, and then you remove it. And that's it. And that's how you can attach or remove our bags in 5 or 10 seconds. So the next step, what we're going to do is show you how to actually assemble the bags. Because the bags don't come looking like this, they come looking like this. So this is how you'll receive the bags. Inside this box contains everything you'll need for assembling. You need to use your Allen key to attach the clamp and the lower hook. It is basically just putting in 4 screws. It's pretty straightforward. So inside the box, you've got the bag skin, as we call it, which already has the frame installed. This is the main bag skin, and inside here is the already assembled, is the aluminium chassis and the internal pocket. And that chassis and bag frame is held in by a bunch of screws already. So the first decision you have to make when opening this bag is whether or not you want to keep the internal pocket. The reason I say that is there are a lot of people that want to save as many grams as possible, and we appreciate that. And so there's a quick way of removing it, and this is sort of when you make the decision. So at the top of the bag, there are 2 M5 screws, and all you need to do is to loosen them slightly. So turning anti-clockwise, and they'll be quite stiff because all these screws have thread locker. So all you need to do is about 1 turn, then you put your hand inside the bag, and you should be able to grab the internal pocket. And this is the internal pocket here. The internal pocket has this plastic part at the top, which has some U-channels. And so when you loosen it slightly, it means it can just lift out, and it makes assembly a lot easier. The internal pocket has a main section that's big enough for something like a iPad or an A4 notebook. And then the zip pocket is a great place to stash anything that you don't want falling to the bottom of your bag. But if you're trying to save grams, removing this will save around about 100 grams. Okay, we're going to keep this in. So when you're dropping it back in, you want to line up the U-channels with the top 2 screws. And when you think you've got it roughly there, you just tighten these back up. And the purpose of these 2 screws is to align the bag skin with the internal aluminium chassis. So to get a waterproof seal between the screw and the internal aluminium chassis, we actually have a nylon washer, which compresses slightly. So when you tension up these screws, they don't have to be that tight. You're just nipping them up enough so that the washer doesn't move. You don't have to crank them. If you over tighten them, the washer will actually expand and then potentially split. So you can see as you're tightening, you'll see that the bag skin will start to rotate ever so slightly, and the washer will start to bow out slightly, and that's when you know you've tightened these ones enough. And so that's the case for this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, there's a box inside the main box, and in here contains the other components you'll need. You've got your shoulder strap, you've got your clamp, and you've got your screws in a small bag. You've got the lower arm, and you've got your spacers, which I mentioned earlier, which fit onto the clamp. If you're fitting this onto a traditional metal rack. We are putting it onto the X series rack, so we're going to just leave it just like it is. So before attaching the upper clamp and the lower hook, we need to decide which side of the bike this bag is going to go. So to demonstrate that, if you imagine there's a bike in front of me and the rack is on the back of the bike. So I will leave that here. So this bag is set up to go on the left side of the bike, and this bag is set up to go on the right side of the bike. So you can see the differences between where the upper clamp goes and the direction in which the lower hook points. And when you come to fit them on the bike, if you just remember that the lower hook points forward. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is install the upper clamp up at the top, and I'm going to drop the countersunk screw in one side, line it up, and then being as careful as you can to keep the screw upright, you want to drive it in about half a turn, and then take the other countersunk screw, put it in the other side, and see if you can get that in half a turn as well. And you might have to apply a reasonable amount of downward pressure as you turn the screw to get it to bite in to the aluminium chassis. And then just work each down to the very end. And you want, because this is a load-bearing clamp that connects to the chassis, you want to use the short end of your Allen key and you want to crank it up tight. The torque rating, for those that have torque wrenches, is around 5 Newton meters. For those that don't, it's tight. Final tight on each. These screws, which connect the clamp to the chassis, form an integral part of the overall stiffness of the ride. So it's important to get them done up tight. The next thing we do is attach the lower hook, and if the clamp is on the right, then the hook faces the opposite direction, and vice versa. So you take the silver screw, which is the slightly longer one of the two, and then this again just drops in here. And this doesn't have to be done up quite as tight. Because it's holding a few plastic parts together, in actual fact, if you over tighten it, then you may cause those parts to split. So it's more of a sort of 2 or 3 Newton meters of torque. Okay, and then the last screw, which has got the nylon washer on it, you're using that to plug the hole on the opposite side of the clamp. So again, this drops in here. Sometimes you find it's easier to get it through the nylon layer and then find the home. So gradually work it in, and then when you get to the bottom, because of the nylon washer, you don't want to over tighten this. You're just nipping it up, and it's important that you put this screw in, because if you don't, your bag will not be waterproof. Okay, that's it. You now have the bag assembled to go on the right side of your bike. And there we have it, the SL22 and the UD22. Stiff, lightweight, and 100% waterproof. Works really well with an ordinary rack, but is designed to work seamlessly with the X series Tailfin rack.